welcome to the podcast. Today, James, Jim, Jim Hicks, friend. We've spoken before the podcast, but today we about how to solve climate change. And I can't think of anyone better qualified at, this on this topic. So he's been writing constantly, tirelessly, and Jim, it's paying dividends. Okay, slowly people are going to listen. And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell the viewers, how did you get started in this, and how long have you been working on solving the environmental problems?
Well, actually, it began in 2002. I got curious about the optimal diet for humans. There's another whole story about why I got curious, but I won't go into that story right now. But that was in November of 2002. And so I jumped on the internet and started, which was kind of going full swing by then. And I started looking up information on healthy eating. And I quickly found people like Dean Ornish and John McDougall and Colin Campbell. It was long before the China study came out. But within about 2 months, by January, I had concluded that the optimal diet for humans was a whole food plant-based diet. And I just immediately changed what I was eating. I kept researching, and I think I'd read about 30 books on the topic of food, health, environment, and everything that goes with it. Memorial Day weekend was coming up, and I read 2 more books. And one was Diet for a New America by John Robbins, and the other was Mad Cowboy by Howard Lyman. Over the same Memorial Day weekend, I read those 2 books, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we're eating the wrong food. I mean, for everything, it's so important. And so that was 2003. And I figured at the time, well, maybe I can get into doing health improvement for employers. I was a management consultant. I knew how to go in and make changes in corporations and save big companies a lot of money on healthcare.
Right.
And I never got to first base with that. I mean, they didn't want to talk about changing diets. That just wasn't what they did. So,
right.
But I thought if we could get people eating the right food, that we could buy ourselves enough time to fix all of the other issues that are driving climate change and our demise as a species. And that just hasn't happened. I mean, that was 2003. By 2013, 10 years later, I realized we're not getting anywhere here. And I just wrote about this week. I was involved with a food summit with some senior people. I don't want to mention the names of people that were present, but there were representatives from several of the environmental NGOs were there. And the head of the meeting, a friend of mine, there was about 20 people in the room, and we had the presidents of some of these organizations there. And the organizer said, well, tell us, you 2 guys that are here from the NGOs, I've been looking at your website. I don't see anything in there about food. And its impact on climate change.
Right.
And one of them answered very candidly, and his answer changed my life. He said, well, if we got, the reason there's nothing about food there, if we got the reputation for being anti-meat, it would destroy our fundraising.
Right.
So we're going to let our civilization collapse and our species go extinct so you can keep your fundraising going until we all die. I mean, it blew my mind that these huge organizations, I suspect that most of the people employed by those organizations mean well. But I don't think they know the truth about food and the food choices, where the leaders do. I think the the CEOs of those huge organizations, these are people that they're paying them $1 million a year. They know the way the game is played. And so
Right.
since then, I realized, well, we don't have any time to waste here now. We've got to really shift into doing all that we can to save
Right.
our civilization. And so I just kind of became more of a big picture guy then, and realized that we can't depend on our government. We can't depend on the UN, really. We can't depend on the NGOs.
Right.
Who can we depend on? And you can't
Yeah.
depend on Al Gore.
Right. So what year was that
That
they told you
that was
candidly?
2013.
2013. Okay.
So since then, I have written a few more books and started doing a lot of blogs. In 2016, I started some bite-sized blogs. I was doing every other day for a while, and then around Earth Day 2 years ago, I changed those to SOS memos, saving our species, because nothing is more important than saving our species, and the SOS is the perfect acronym, which is the International Distress Signal, and we certainly have a distress signal going on. So
Right.
that was 2 years ago, and around Earth Day. So I've just finished up writing number 106 today, and it seems like every week there's something else to really talk about in those SOS memos, and they're all available to the public on my website at hpjmh.com.
Right. Yeah, I'll put that up out there on our comment. Yeah, see that when we talk about food, and people say, "Oh, that's a political loser. Don't touch it because it'll affect our fundraising."
Yeah.
Right. Nature is so perfect that what solves your problem also solves the environmental problem.
Right.
It's fundamentally, it's heal yourself and you'll start healing the planet, right? Fundamentally. Right. So to me, no matter what they say, you think the leaders are the only ones who know and the people don't know. But I have faith in the people, so what I'm saying is we speak to the leaders, but we are really speaking to the people. You're just pretending to speak to the leaders because we know they're not going to hear.
Right.
But you're really talking to the people and getting people to understand. And this is why we did all these documentaries, right? Because you're reaching the masses.
Right.
And so I had a very similar experience with one of the heads of one of these NGOs, environmental NGOs. When Cowspiracy came out, I sent a lot of these NGO heads a link to the movie and said, watch it.
Right.
And tell me what you think. And one of them replied. None of them replied except for one person. Okay? Only one reply I got. And that person sent a very angry reply.
Really?
Yeah. He was very angry with me. He was saying, you're letting the fossil fuel companies off the hook. And I was saying, well, you're talking about this. I'm not talking about fossil fuels. I'm talking about food and its impact on that. And he said, the world will not go vegan until the human population is down to 1 billion. Exact quote.
Really?
The world will not go vegan until the human population is down to 1 billion.
Now, why did he say 1 billion? What's the background there?
Well, I mean, in his mind, that's the sustainable population on the planet or whatever, something in his mind, some calculations he has done, right? I mean, people do these calculations based on their consumption levels.
Yes.
They say if everybody consumed like me, oh my God, I have 2 cars per person. They do these calculations and they say we cannot have 7 billion people having 2 cars per person.
Right.
So you need to reduce the population. So this is just it's very short-term thinking. It's very local analysis that they're doing, from a systems perspective. And so I told him, well, you're basically saying that you won't go vegan until 7 billion people die around you. That's all you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's your worldview. That's not my worldview. My worldview is that we can go be vegan right now. It doesn't take much to change our ethics, right? And change our culture. I mean, it's just a switch in our mind. So uh, I just said, okay, I have to just ignore these people because they're so stuck in their worldviews. And I have to start talking to the population of the world. And, you know, it is, to me, it is inevitable that this is going to happen. See, I've had experience like this in the standards meetings that I used to go to.
Right.
I mean, I would tell people, look, this is the best way to do it. And here are the numbers. And people are ignoring me. Why? Because they have a patent on the other way. They have an economic interest in pushing that way, right?
That's it. It's all about the
And
money.
it's money. It's about money.
Right.
And they're pretending not to hear me. But I keep pounding and pounding and pounding. Eventually they say, okay, you're right. Leave me alone.
Well, we can't give up, can we, Silas?
We can't give up, So I've had experience. I mean, it has happened to me time and again. Okay, so and fortunately, I'm one of those. I don't care what people think of me because I'm trying to do the right thing, And when I think I'm doing the right thing, I keep at it. Especially when it comes to my granddaughter's life.
Sure.
You betcha. I'm going to keep pounding.
Yeah, for all of the children.
For all of the children.
The children are innocent. They
Absolutely.
are all innocent. They can be innocent. And they learn the wrong things from their parents and their teachers and their government.
They get inculcated into this culture, whatever this culture is, right? So it's all the children of the world. It's not just human children. Okay, I love the birds that are out there. I love the animals that are out there. So I want to shut down this killing machine, even if it's the last thing that we do, okay, on this earth. I'm going to shut down this killing machine. I'm determined. There's no question in my mind it's going to be shut down, because to me it doesn't make any sense to go around saying, "Oh my God, the planet is dying," and then you're sitting around operating a killing machine. Are we out of our minds? So, I mean, it doesn't do anybody any good to operate a killing machine on this planet, and to use our engineering know-how to figure out how to kill. And that to me it's a travesty. I mean, all that we learned.
It's a travesty from a healthcare perspective, just as much as a humanitarian perspective and survival. To think that you can reverse chronic disease, reverse it, lose weight, save money on healthcare, on food, and at the same time tackle the number one cause of climate change. I mean, it's just such a no-brainer. I look at the big picture and I say, well, we got really three big sustainability problems. One is overpopulation. One is our capitalism. We're maximizing the consumption of stuff in a world of finite resources. And the third one is the food.
Right.
Now, the first two are going to take a long time to fix. I mean, fixing capitalism, I wrote a chapter about that in Outcry in the book. I called it "Earthonomics Replaces Capitalism."
Right.
I'm not a brilliant economist, so I don't know how to make it happen, but I know where the incentives ought to be if we're going to survive.
Right.
And then there's the food. The food is just a no-brainer. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Those are the three issues. I see population eventually coming down automatically. Once you have a just world, once we actually implement what we said we were going to implement, we're not asking for anything new, right? People said all men are created equal, and we all have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes,
we said that, and then we created one of the most unequal societies in human history. Okay, after saying all men are created equal, And then from right to life, we tell our children, you all have to go earn a living. And I say, excuse me, what happened to my right to life? You know, if I have to earn a living, you're basically telling me if I don't do what the master wants, I'm going to starve to death. And that to me is the exact opposite of a right to life. That's colonialism 101. So we are in our language itself, we have been colonized.
Right.
Right. And so it's about saying, do we really mean what we say as Americans? Do we mean what we say? And do we have the integrity to admit that we're not doing what we said? And therefore, we have to transform, and start doing what we said. See, I'm an engineer. Okay. As an engineer, I get specifications and then I implement it. And I match my implementation with my specifications and make sure that I meet it.
Right.
We know how to do this. Okay? We've done this time and again.
It's really simple.
It's really simple stuff, right? It's about not playing games,
Right.
and actually saying that, we are going to have integrity on spaceship Earth, engineering integrity on spaceship Earth. Like if we designed rocket ships to Mars the way we design our economy here, it'll never even get off the ground.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
if we have politicians doing the system design,
right,
and economists who have no clue about engineering, doing resource allocation, we would never get there. So I say that, Jim, we need people like you, because we need big picture thinkers. We need systems engineers to be figuring out how to do economics, because economics is really engineering. Especially donut economics, because donut economics says that there's a certain maximum resource usage that you can do on this planet. And so then how do you allocate these resources to accomplish these objectives? That's an engineering project right there.
Right. Dr. James Lovelock, you're familiar with him, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He basically is more proud of being an engineer than anything else.
Yeah.
But he makes it real simple. If the earth improves because of our presence, we will flourish. If it doesn't, we will die off.
Right.
It's pretty much on record saying that he doesn't see any way we're not going to die off, within the next 100 years. He said, maybe 1 billion of us will survive, maybe a lot less.
But you see, he's looking at it from a rather Western perspective. And I look at it from an Eastern perspective. See, in the way we were taught in our culture, we begin by saying we are not in charge.
Yes.
Okay, we are not in charge. There is a higher intelligence at play here, and that we are basically instruments of this.
Right.
And so it puts a different perspective, and it says, okay, whatever is going to happen, I'm going to serve. Okay, I'm going to serve to the best of my ability, and I'm going to be relentless at telling the truth. Because ultimately the truth is, we heal ourselves, we heal the planet. We know that. So, and shut down the killing machine,
I mentioned the chapter that I wrote called Earthonomics Replaces Capitalism.
Right.
And basically, I came up with this indicator called the BHI, Biospheric Health Index, for every human being and for every country would have a score. And I'd say the score was be kind of like your credit score. The best is 850, 900, whatever.
Right.
The lowest is 0 and you don't get any credit. But your biospheric health index would be based on what are you doing to improve the biosphere.
Right.
Biosphere, I'm more the Eastern approach here is
absolutely.
We're descendants of a natural world, and we think we own it now. We think we're in charge.
Right.
We think, we believe the dogma that we've been taught as children about certain religions and God gave us dominion over all of the other creatures of the planet. Well, I grew up being taught that, but I no longer believe that. And the more I study science and learn from people like yourself and James Lovelock and many others, E.O. Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
So the Biospheric Health Index, basically, every person has a score. And in the world of the future, the people with the most privileges, if we're going to reward people with, they're not going to have more cars because we're not going to have any cars, but more privileges in terms of access to entertainment or the location of your home and the comforts, that sort of thing, but not stuff, because stuff, if you consumed a lot of stuff, you wouldn't have a high BHI.
Right.
And so everybody from the janitor and the lawn man to the top people in the world have to have their own personal BHI, and that'll determine their comfort levels. But it's all based on serving our creator, which is the biosphere.
Awesome.
So awesome. I keep things simple because I'm a simple-minded engineer. But we're not getting anywhere. We're not getting any traction. And I've done a lot of work in consulting in the business world, and it's all about leadership. And our current leadership in this country and our government systems, and that huge article I sent you the other day about the Biden administration is recognizing that the animal food industry is a big driver of climate change now, but not one mention of cutting back on it. Not one mention. So we have a leadership vacuum. There's the people in our universities and our governments. So, how do we get past that? And that's why when you mentioned Al Gore, I mean, that's a name that's known throughout the world. And he could make a big difference. He's got enough money. Why doesn't he join forces with us and really make a difference? I think I've lost you, Sailesh. Hello. Sailesh.
Yeah, we were out for a while. I think they're censoring us. Anyway, don't worry. We keep at it.
I see somebody made a comment on Facebook.
Yes, it's the highest. It's highest time to transform death culture into life culture.
Right.
So what you're talking about in the Biosphere Health Index.
Biosphere Health Index. Right.
Yeah, Biosphere Health Index. And I also want to tell you that it's heard. Your words are being heard. You may feel like you are banging your head against the wall, but in reality, you are making headway. We just don't know it. Okay, so what's happening is it's like the drip, drip, drip of the water on rock, and eventually it's going to make a hole. And that's how the Grand Canyon was made. So there is truth takes time to take hold, but the truth always wins.
We are running out of time.
Well, that again is what is the right time to do the right thing? Now. Okay, it's always now. So yeah, we can do projections based on what is happening now. And we can tell people, look, what's happening now is already indicating that we are in a nonlinear feedback loop. And having experience in working with nonlinear feedback loops, I know the right time to reverse a nonlinear feedback loop is now. Don't sit around waiting, because it could go really, really fast. It is already going really fast. We can see climate change right now, okay? I mean, because all the IPCC models are all linear. Yeah. They're all pretending that, these nonlinear feedback loops are not triggered. But they have been triggered. In the Arctic, they've been triggered. They've been triggered I think there are like 50 odd nonlinear feedback loops that are already underway. So knowing that, we should be taking action right now. You're right. But rather than telling them we are running out of time, I would tell them do it now, as quickly as possible. Because if we wait a year, it's going to be even worse. If you wait 2 years, it's going to be even worse. So I have this 5-year window. I'm saying within 5 years, we better get to a vegan world. And otherwise, we are in big, big trouble.
Well, as you may remember, one of my memos I wrote recently, I called it a what if situation.
Mm-hmm.
And what if there was another pandemic in 2023 and be COVID-23,
Right.
2 years from now, that was on track to kill 7 billion people.
Right.
What if the next, who knows? I mean, there are going to be more pandemics. And
well, if we keep at it, if we keep the killing machine going, there'll be more pandemics.
This
is stupid.
And that's on a nonlinear growth curve as well. And
yeah.
So who knows that there could some virus strain come along that could kill 7 billion people. But as Colin Campbell pointed out, that and I asked him in a phone conversation recently, what if everybody in the United States, for example, had been eating a whole food plant-based diet for 5 years before the pandemic? What would have been our situation? And he said it would probably have been a non-event.
Right.
Because your immune system would and he published several articles about that recently, last year, early stages of the pandemic. So if you say, well, maybe something like that would get everyone's attention, when they notice, the news media notices that the only people that aren't dying are these crazy vegan people that don't eat meat. And then they quickly, like you say, the things can move really fast when enough people become aware of something. Like the house is really burning now. And so a what if situation like that, I figure might lead to a fantastically fast shift to a plant-based diet.
Right.
And it wouldn't take that long if everybody in the world wanted to do that. In fact,
it wouldn't.
You could start growing the food practically overnight and basically get rid of all of the animals in the pipeline and maybe save a few billion people in the process. And so in that case, the pandemic would be a really good thing. Don't you think?
Yeah, well, it's a wake-up call. To me, the pandemic is Mother Nature saying, go to your room and think about what you have done.
Right. Yeah.
And when you come out, behave correctly. Right? If you come back out and say, I'm going to do exactly what I did before, you're going to get slapped again. And this is what she's doing with the second wave. Okay, the second wave is a second slap in our face.
Yeah.
Saying, wake up. And so I think people in India are waking up right now. Okay, I have a feeling that India is going to take the lead on transforming global civilization.
Right.
I have a feeling it's going to happen because India has been slapped really hard now, and people are dying in the streets. Okay, it is not a joke anymore, and this is not something that, oh shoot, how are we going to continue this colonial system if everybody starts eating plant-based foods? To hell with the colonial system. Okay, we already complained about it 100 years ago. Okay, the colonial system.
What do we do about the fact that 95% at least of the American public and most of the public in the developed world truly believe that they must eat animal protein to be healthy?
Well, we have to have a education campaign, and the fact that there are 5.
Lost you, Sailesh.
% of the people running internet, my unstable internet connection.
Yeah.
The fact that we are all walking around raising healthy children on completely plant-based, already getting an example to others, saying that you've been lied to. See, when I show people what the hell, okay, the first reaction I get from people is that, my God, I've been lied to all my life. And they get really mad.
Yeah.
Lied to. They've been lied to. And I tell them, yeah, you have been lied to. I have been lied to. We have all been lied to. And unless we get in line with the truth, we are not going to be sustainable. As engineers, okay, if I can pretend all I want that laws are not valid, but if I design a car pretending that Newton's laws are not valid, I'll never get anywhere. I know,
Right.
ultimately nature forces us to acknowledge the truth. And so that's, I think, to me, that is where the truth is, where our salvation is, our sustainability. Uh, and will eventually come around. Even if they don't agree, right, they will agree. Okay, because it's just information, and then living an example. I mean, the fact that you are sending out these SOS memos, right? You've been continuously sending them out. You're relentless at this. That is helpful. That is helpful. Okay, never quit, never give up, because in my experience, that's always what has eventually woken people up.
Just
Because
drip, drip, drip of the faucet, right?
yes, the drip, drip, drip of the faucet. Actually, to me, it's like punching holes in the dam. So we are punching holes in the dam, okay, and eventually the dam will burst, and that's what happens. It's a nonlinear phenomenon. That dam bursting is also a nonlinear phenomenon. We cannot predict when it's going to happen. All we know is that the more holes we punch, the more likely that the dam will burst.
Well, Dr. Peter Wadhams and many scientists say that climate scientists, that when the Arctic goes ice-free, it's going to be close to the end.
Well, if the Arctic goes ice-free, you're right. It'll start storing as much heat as all the greenhouse gases we have put into the atmosphere in 1750. Yeah, so it's going to double the heating because we lose the mirror at the top. So then, we have to start putting mirrors out there. I mean, we have to figure out how to undo the damage we have done. Okay, and we have to then heal as quickly as possible. So to me, every challenge is an opportunity for us to do the right thing faster. Okay, and I also know from experience that no one can predict when nonlinear systems trigger. No one can predict that. Okay, I couldn't do it either. I was analyzing this circuit that was doing this crazy nonlinear behavior, going from one state to another. Right, we called it the jump phenomenon, and I was trying to figure out how the heck do I predict which voltage it does that at. And we were finally coming up with ways to map the hysteresis using Newton-Raphson's method and things like that. But this was a very simple circuit. And now you're talking about an entire planet, a planetary system. And so no scientist can come and tell me, I know when this nonlinear thing is going to trigger, because I'm going to tell him, go find another person to con, because I'm an engineer. I'm a systems engineer. I don't get conned by scientists, because I know how to sift through science and smell the BS.
So you're familiar with Dr. Guy McPherson?
Yeah. I'm familiar with this work. But to me, again, you cannot predict nonlinear systems accurately. Okay, anyone who claims that they can do it are lying to me.
Right.
So I say, we know what to do. We know what to do to reverse it. So talk about the reversal, which is bring back.
We lost you again, Silas. Hello. Hello, Silas. Podcast.
That was an extended break.
Unplanned break, right?
Unplanned breaks. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's interesting. I don't know why my internet is so picky. But
Yeah.
anyway, we shall keep at it no matter what happens, no matter what they do. So,
So we're talking about making predictions.
yeah.
I mentioned Dr. Peter Wadhams. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I am.
Scientist that wrote Farewell to Ice, and I think it came out in 2014 or thereabouts.
Right.
And at that time, we had just passed 2012, which was the all-time low point of ice in the Arctic ice area.
Right.
And we still haven't gotten that low again in 2021 yet. But we almost did last year.
Right.
So when he wrote the book, it was 2013 after 2012, and he'd seen what happened, and he knew
Right.
that it's just gonna go much faster now.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It didn't, and so he predicted that by 2018, plus or minus a year, or 2016, I think he predicted that there would be the first ice-free Arctic.
Right.
And he since kind of shamefully has to say, "Oh, I'm not going to make any more predictions."
Good.
He violated the rule that you cited earlier about we don't know. No one can know for sure.
Right.
We can see the trend, and we can say with a 98% degree of certainty by a certain year that this will happen, but it's always some degree of assumed certainty, correct?
Yeah, it's a highly nonlinear system, and it's difficult to predict its phase
Right.
shifts.
Right.
You can predict that the phase shift will happen. Okay, I agree. If we keep at it, if we keep heating up the earth, of course the Arctic is going to melt. There is no question about that. But when will it melt, and what is the process? If someone tells me I know how that's going to happen, I say, okay, come here.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you how engineering works. Okay, so I don't want to hear anyone telling me that they know something when they don't.
Right.
I'd rather get an answer that I don't know. And but this is my best guess, and this is my certainty level on the guess. That's how engineers work. Okay, and then based on that, we make decisions as to what are we going to do right now.
Right.
How do we address the problem right now? Okay, I mean, I've had situations where I was debugging chips, right? Figuring out what the heck is wrong with this chip. And unless I am honest with myself, I will never get to the root cause of the problem. That's a lesson I learned the hard way. I have to be honest with myself, and I have to be honest with the people I'm reporting to, that I'm talking to. I'm going to tell them, I really don't know yet, or I think it is here. I'm going to check, and if I make a mistake, I'll tell you. Okay, I have no compunction. I have no shame whatsoever at admitting that I was wrong, because we've been wrong so many times. I've been wrong so many times. Okay, and so it's the ability to look at ourselves and to say, we don't know, is important. That humility is important for us to come up with a solution.
Yeah. I agree.
And for all life, right? So this is not just about us; it's about all life. So I'd say this is why when I found out that the rate at which we are killing wild animals was the leading indicator of how fast we need to do things.
Right.
And because no matter what else we do, it eventually winds up killing wild animals. Climate change kills wild animals. Biodiversity, deforestation kills wild animals. Dead zones kill wild animals. Everything kills wild animals. And to me, that's why when the World Wildlife Fund said that we are on track to wipe out almost all wild animals by 2026, I said, no, we need to create a vegan world by 2026.
Yeah, that graphic that Corey Bradshaw used down in Australia, showing
Right.
the 12,000 years ago, all the mammals were all wild animals.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're 4% are wild animals,
Right.
and our livestock is 60%.
Right.
60% of all biomass. Animal.
It's worse than it's 60% of all biomass, but our livestock are very young animals.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we kill them as soon as they grow up. We're killing them as babies mostly. So
Yeah,
they're eating way more than their weight alone would indicate, because they're all growing animals. So as far as the planet is concerned, they are consuming the equivalent of a biomass that's 2.5 times the biomass of their livestock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how I would calculate it as an engineer. And so this is why I say that they are the equivalent of 4.5 times our biomass.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the good news, right? The good news is that if as soon as you stop raising and killing animals, then all that land, all that resources, all those resources become available to regenerate the planet and to bring back the wild animals. And so that's why focusing on our food system, to me, is the first step. And I say, in the paper that you and I are co-authoring, the engineer solutions to scientists' warnings, this is why we talk about, giving everyone healthy food, making it easily available. should be one of the first steps we need to implement.
And we should be able to do that pretty easily. We did it with the vaccine. If we can do
Exactly.
vaccines for everybody in the world, why can't we deliver food to everybody in the world?
Right. Absolutely. We are growing the food, so this the government has to just procure it and cook it and sell it,
Yeah.
and don't make profits on it.
What do you
Right
think?
now, we are paying we are making like huge profits on it, right? So we are buying the food for 5 cents a pound, and we are selling it in the supermarket for $2 a pound.
Mhm.
So someone's sitting there making tons of money on based on the work of some poor woman in India, some villager in India,
Right.
and that kind of exploitation has to stop. So, but we know as systems engineers, we know how to address problems. If someone says, "Here's a whole bunch of food, here are a whole bunch of hungry people," how would you transport the food from here to there? This is not complicated stuff.
No, it's so simple. The solution is so simple, but it's just remarkable that I have my SOS memos go to about 5,000 people.
Uh-huh.
Um, not all of them look at every one. There's about 1,000 that look at every one of them, and then there's distribution, and different people come and view them at different times. But I hardly hear from anybody. And
Right.
when I was with a gathering last weekend in the coastline of Connecticut, in a town where I knew a lot of people, and we were all at a function at a yacht club that was opening, and there were at least 20, 30 people in the crowd that I was mingling with that read my SOS memos.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single word.
Yeah.
Not a single word. So,
Yeah.
but like you say, you just got to keep doing. Maybe one person will read it that makes a difference.
It does. I mean, I say that we are in a situation where the social media is trying to corral us, make sure that we only talk to each other and don't get the word out to other people. But that means that we have a good way of organizing ourselves, right? So which means, our posts get to our people.
Yeah.
So organize ourselves using social media, but then go out there and speak to the community that you're in, your local community. And if we keep doing that on a regular basis, we'll get through. Because the truth will come out. The truth always comes out, no matter how much people try to hide it. So I'm so happy that my position paper finally got published. and
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations. And Klaus Mitchell has already put it on TV for you. And
right. Klaus Mitchell is amazing.
The CNN story, the way he presented it.
Right. It's amazing,
Yeah. And, whether the number is 51, 87, or 49, I mean, it's a huge number. And it is the primary driver of climate change. And I think the people in the government know that too. They just believe that mostly that they need that animal protein to live.
Well, that also they ought to know by now, right? So Colin Campbell has been working on this for 30 years. I mean, Dean Ornish has been talking about this for 30 years. I mean, this John McDougall, I mean, people have been talking about this for decades.
But it's not changing the system.
It's not changing the system yet, because the system is based on exploitation of animals. If we cannot exploit animals, how can you exploit other people?
Mm-hmm.
It's a colonial system, right? So the colonial system depends on exploitation of animals. Because if we say we cannot exploit animals, then we cannot exploit other people either. And so the whole thing collapses. So this is why they're stuck.
Nonlinear system collapse.
The collapse is a nonlinear system, right? So,
right.
And so we have to create this new system that you've been talking about with the BHI, the Biosphere Health Index, the Earthonomics. We need to flesh that out. We need to create infrastructure around it, software around it, so that people can say, "Oh, I can come and join that," and now I have another way of plugging into the system, into a new system, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's our responsibility, Jim, to take Earthonomics and all the great ideas that you've come up with, and to start creating prototypes with it. Start creating tangible stuff that people can go and say, I can download that and start playing with it and start joining it. So, and I have good news for you. I'll talk to you later. It's kind of confidential at the moment.
Okay.
And I'll talk to you later about it. That people are coming forward to put resources to do just that.
Excellent.
Okay.
Hear that.
And these are high-powered people. I mean, these are people who have plenty of resources on at their disposal. And
they saw your paper.
Yeah, my paper is getting through to them, and some of the other work that Brother Phil Lane did with the International Treaty to Protect and Restore Mother Earth, that's getting through to them. So it is a whole system-based approach that I have faith that the system is going to transform.
Well, good.
Thanks to people like you.
Makes me feel good that you have faith.
And my faith is in my fellow human beings, first and foremost.
I have 8 times as many grandchildren as you do.
Yes. And when you look in their faces, you know that we are going to become the heroes that they are looking for.
Well,
we have no choice but to do that.
The 2 youngest may think that. I got 3 in college. They already know everything.
Right. Right. I know. But, we have to step up. Our generation has to step up and make this transformation happen.
Well, I appreciate your leadership and your confidence.
Well, thanks to people like you, Jim. So thank you very much for being on the show, and thank you for your work and for continuing to send out those SOS memos.
I will. I always seem to have something in the news. You see something in the news and you go, I got to write about that.
I love that, and I keep getting your SOS memos and I read them.
Good. All right.
I noticed that the latest one that you sent out, have you sent it out yet, or is it going to come out?
It's going out today. It's all about the food this time.
Right.
Really talking about the food, essential for our survival.
Right.
And I go through some of the story that I told earlier, but and I've managed to get your video in there because I just saw it last night for the first time, the Klaus Mitchell video.
Right. Well, I didn't even know about it, so thank you for letting me know.
You didn't know it was up?
No, I didn't know it was up. I know that Klaus Mitchell interviewed me on the day the paper came out.
Well, it's in my SOS memo, and people can click on it.
Right.
It's very well done, I thought.
Yeah, he's done he usually does a really great job.
Good job. He did a really good job with kind of exposing the animal food industry as being the source of the pandemic way back in the early stages.
Right.
But you don't hear anybody talking about that.
Well, we have this group called Eating Animals Causes Pandemics.
Yeah.
Which is and we have been, so we did an event last month.
Right.
Actually, beginning of this month, May 1st, on May Day, in 60 cities in 20 countries. And not a single mainstream news picked it up.
Yeah. I just found that site today. In fact, it's included in my SOS memo now.
Eating Animals Causes Pandemic. EACP.
Yeah.
So they're doing another one on June 7th to coincide with the G7 summit. And then so I'm telling them, keep at it. Keep doing it once a month.
Yeah.
Because when the skulls are thick, you have to drill it into the.
Yeah. I did when I first started blogging. It was to sell my first book. My publisher suggested I start a blog. I wrote Healthy Eating, Healthy World in 2011. And so I started a blog in 2011 before the book came out, and I decided to do it every day. So I did 737 consecutive daily blogs. And then I went to random. Now I'm doing a weekly.
Yeah. I'm doing weekly. I'm sending a weekly newsletter out.
Weekly, you can put thoughts together and kind of polish
Right.
it, think about it more.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I see news items that I think are worthwhile for the newsletter, I put it in a document, and at the end I select 2 of them and I send it out.
Great.
So
Appreciate
I appreciate you very much, and as I said, I'll call you after this to talk about this
All right.
confidential thing.
All
So
right.
I'll let the viewers be a little intrigued by what we are going to be talking about.
All right.
But it is good news, and it's good things are happening. Okay,
Excellent.
so
Excellent.
keep at it.
You're a good man.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.